Dave is bored, but Barbara chased him out of the kitchen and we don't know where the kids are. Out to the garage to hang with Mom.
Oh, hello, David.
I think I broke a tooth on it.
Oh, yeah?
What's new?
Yeah.
Shh, I can't hear.
Hear what?
The newlyweds are battling again.
Remember how so far I'm not a big fan of Mom? She's not helping her case any.
I'm eating out.
You can sleep out, too.
Okay, goodbye.
That's the first time he ever really walked out.
He'll be back.
Once he leaves, it's not so easy to come back.
Why?
Pride.
Oh, she has all the answers. They'll both be too proud to reach out and their marriage will fall apart. Dave says, well, what are you going to do?
I'm not going to do anything. If I went over there to help, I'd ruin their lawn. But you should go over there.
She wants him to go interfere. Remember, she says she came back to help him. Let's see some of this help.
If your father were alive, he'd go over. Your father wouldn't let his neighbors down. He'd be the first one there. He'd help.
He's going.
He paid $200 for her. Add another $300 to $400 for the repairs and paint job and all that. Say he's got $500 into her. He could sell her to Manzini for enough to recoup his expenses, and then Manzini can deal with her. At least that's what I'd do at this point. They deserve each other.
I know he really loves me. He hates my cooking. But that was the best steak money could buy. Sirloin.
Yeah, well.
Just try it, Dave, and tell me the truth.
Oh, I don't know, Susie. Barbara's cooking a big meal for me.
Just try it. You'll
Well,
see.
yeah, but
it's
if I-
tender.
If I spoil my...
That is not a steak. That is a cheap hockey puck after Bobby Hull smacked it. After Dave offered the same opinion of her steak, Susie gave up marriage and homemaking and became a Mary Tyler Moore imitator. She made a fortune. When Fred saw, he offered to come back. Propriety forbids me from repeating Susie's reply.
Try it here.
That should be her first indication that she didn't cook it right. Dave will just pick it up and take a bite. It's like chewing a rock. But she's so sincere, Dave will take the easy way, lie.
Good. Delicious. This steak is something else. I wish it was something else.
Oh, Dave. Dave.
No, I'm just kidding, Susie. Look, I'm eating. Look.
I don't often use this word, but lying is never a good idea in that situation. It's better to be honest with her and start finding ways to help her learn to cook, I assume that would be Barbara's department, than to lie to her and get her hopes up.
Delicious. Tender.
And keep your hands to yourself. I don't care how innocent it is, do not touch.
Susie, honey. Say, what is this?
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. My wife and my next-door neighbor. And my steak.
Listen, Fred,
Listen, Fred, what we're trying...
That's why you don't touch, because Fred will touch you back. I confess I didn't recognize him at first, even though I was sure I knew him. His face is a lot fuller, and he's absurdly young. He and Susie did divorce, and he moved to England, where he fell in love with a singing pig. Sadly, her heart already belonged to another. He returned to the States, got married again, and had several children, and eventually adopted a really big dog. They named it Mozart or something like that. Charles Grodin had been acting for a little over 10 years, and his biggest role so far had been on a soap opera called The Young Marrieds that didn't last very long. But in the various parts he was doing, he found himself rubbing shoulders with some major players, and pretty much everybody recognized his talent. At 86, he's still knocking around, though he hasn't done any acting in a few years. And you know what? As many years of great performances as he's given us, if he wants to retire and just enjoy the rest of his life, I say he's bloomin' well earned it.
I'm a lawyer. We're a lot like doctors.
Oh, so that's it. You're getting a divorce on one little argument. You get a doctor.
Lawyer.
No matter.
No, that's
All right, I'll get my own doctor.
It's lawyer.
If that's the way you want it, that's the way you got it. I'm going to the YMCA.
Dave can always come up with the wrong thing to say.
He'll be back. He'll be back, Susie. Don't worry.
Who wants him? If that's all he thinks of me, then that's that. Mr. Crabtree, you've got yourself a patient.
The first thing Dave needs to do is go ream his mother. No, strike that. The first thing Dave needs to do is grow a spine so he can go ream his mother.
Mom, let's just leave him alone.
Fred will come back. The whole thing was just a silly misunderstanding.
I know it, and you know it. Now you go down to the Y and convince Fred. Explain to him exactly what happened.
Tell her no and go in the house. She can't follow you there. And by the way, she's driving herself again. The only time she can't is when she needs to do a bad Spanish accent.
Why didn't Susie explain all that before I left? We tried. Oh, so now it's we.
Fred, Susie's my client. If she's one client, I don't want you. You don't end a marriage over a burnt steak.
All right, Crabtree. You finished? You all done?
Who is that?
My lawyer, Nick Fitch.
Fitch starts going on about how it's illegal and unethical for Dave to talk to him without his consent. You're right there. You have every opportunity to control the narrative, so I'm not sure what's up your butt.
I've had 457 divorce cases and only lost one.
One?
Mine.
I could spend the next half hour psychoanalyzing this conversation, but Fitch would rather throw Dave out. And of course, Dave just lets him. Mom keeps pressuring him to meddle more and more, and it culminates in a nice candlelight dinner. Except, unbeknownst to Fred, Barbara is doing the cooking and Dave is shuttling it over to Susie's kitchen. It really isn't funny or worth commenting on. Feminists everywhere will lose their minds about the way Susie is fawning over Fred. Mom can't stop making snarky comments and complaining, and Fred keeps snapping at Susie, demanding the next course. Honestly, I think Susie could do a lot better. It's like they say on the internet these days, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The visual gags are stale and predictable. I have to admit it's a novel idea, a situation comedy that's all situation and no comedy. There are at least 6 courses, which makes me wonder if we're going for a typical American dinner or a classic English feast. It's going well until Fred figures out the game.
You've been slaving in a hot kitchen all day. You're just too beautiful to soil your hands on dirty dishes.
Strawberry cream pie, do you like it?
Oh, I love it.
Hi, Fred.
Fred is a big enough jerk that he won't think about how hard Susie has been trying to reconcile, even to the point of doing this. He'll just get all me, blah, 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 and it's time for the divorce hearing.
Exhibit A. This is the weapon.
Your Honor, I object. The knife was never used as a weapon.
Objection sustained.
Okay, this is the knife used by my client on the night of the burned steak dinner in question.
I could watch Lee Van Cleef do just about anything. If you've ever seen a spaghetti western, you've seen him. This character is a far cry from Angel Eyes and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but he plays it just as well. You can smell the slime coming off this guy, and as we saw, he's appropriately dramatic about the most mundane of events.
Exhibit B, Your Honor. Receipts. Receipts for 68 Chinese dinners, 46 orders of chicken in the basket, and 53 pizzas. A total of 167 meals my client had to buy when his wife's food proved inedible.
He finishes up and the judge says, Mr. Crabtree, it's your turn. Dave stands up and says, everything he just said is true. My client may well be the worst cook on the planet.
I must concede that it proves that Fred and Susie are totally, completely, and irrevocably incompatible.
He says, it's obvious a wife who can't feed her husband doesn't really love him, and a man who can't bring himself to eat his wife's cooking no matter how hard she's tried can't possibly love his wife. Divorce is the only answer.
I object.
Sit down, shut up.
He says I don't love Susie.
Well, listen to him, he's starting to make sense.
I think Fitch may be the only person in the room who doesn't realize what Dave's doing.
She's my own client, but there's no 2 ways about it. Susie can't cook for a man she can't love.
Susie, don't listen to him.
Where are you going?
To my wife.
You can't do that. You're right in the middle of getting a divorce.
Oh, honey, I love you. Don't worry about everything.
I love you too, Fred. Don't ever leave me.
Break it up. Come on, stop.
Stop that! You have to get divorced. What about his perfect record?
Your Honor, I object.
Mr. Fitch, I object to your objecting.
Huh?
I object to you. I object to your methods. I object to your conduct in this court. There's no way around it. You're just plain objectionable.
Your Honor, will you allow me to settle this out of court?
Request granted. Case dismissed.
And we may as well get this out of the way.
Counselor? You know, for a minute, Dave, I thought I was seeing your father out there again.
Thank you, Your Honor.
In the first half of the 20th century, big parts of society were still hung up on the whole thing about following in your father's footsteps. In the case of people like Dave, though, it was more like living in your father's shadow and never quite getting to come into your own and be your own person. Dave is in that spot right now, and I feel bad for him. My brother is 15 years older than I am. We both adore and revere our dad, but beyond that, we couldn't be more different. My brother was always a workaholic, and the only thing he ever wanted to do with himself was take over our dad's real estate business when our dad retired. And he did. And for years, he had to live in that shadow. He endured people constantly comparing him to his father, but that wasn't sufficient for him. He took a basic real estate office like 100 others and turned it into a super successful operation, and at its height it was worth over $2 million. He's retired now, as he should be. He finally figured out how to inject a little balance into his life. These days he travels around the country visiting his kids. That office never interested me in the least. I worked there on and off during my teens, mainly because I needed money and I could lean on my parents to give me a job there, but I never seriously considered going into the family business. My two passions were music and the Bible. To this day, I haven't held a quote-unquote real job for more than 3 years. Making money was never that important to me. Give me enough to sustain me and put a musical instrument in my hands and I'm set for life. The Mr. Businessman lifestyle was never for me. And you know the best part? Our dad was okay with both of us. To tell the truth, he always wished my brother would find something of his own and not just try to be a carbon copy of Dad. But you know something? He did. It just so happened that taking over the family business and continuing Pop's legacy was his thing. He took it and made it his own. I've always admired him for that. I was the dreamer, and Pop was okay with that too. The biggest difference between us is he had to put up with all the comparisons and live in our dad's shadow for a lot of years. I didn't. That tells me he was a lot more equipped to handle it than I would have been. As I said, even though Dave is fictional, I feel bad for him having to live like that. It's even worse for him when his overbearing, manipulative mother rubs his nose in it. And since he's a good little mama's boy, he can't bring himself to give her a good swift kick in the exhaust pipe and tell her to shut up. Maybe he could hire Fitch to do it for him.